What's going on? Today we got my good friend Brandon Gaydorus. What's going on, dude?
Dude, I'm doing phenomenal. I'm so excited you started this podcast. I remember when I first met you, you were grinding. You were working 70, 80 hours a week, 7 days a week, and you were hustling. But you knew one thing, you're like, this is not going to be the way I live my life, the rest of my life. So I have a lot of respect for what you're doing now, helping other entrepreneurs figure out what it's like to actually grow while you have a side hustle and how you can actually get out of that. So I'm excited for what we're about to share today.
Oh, I appreciate those kind words, man. And speaking for yourself, I know you've got a lot of things going on. So, what specifically you got going on right now?
Yeah, so when we're talking about side hustle, I actually just retired from my first business and I made a lot of mistakes and I did a lot of things right with that business. And we're going to share with you today a lot of the things that everybody who's viewing this, everybody who's watching, that it could save you a lot of time, energy, and effort as you try and grow your business, as you try and live the life that you want. So I just recently retired from my business, which was as a golf fitness trainer. So for those of you who don't know what that is, just picture a personal trainer who works mostly with golfers. So that was me from 17 to 29. Now from 26 to 29, I planned a 3-year exit strategy because I had my personal training business where I had to make a decision at 26 years old. Do I want to take this and scale this where it's not relying on me and focus more on the business side? Or do I want to grow the business that I had on my mind, which was Warm Heart Life, on the side while I still kept that other one going? Because the fitness industry, the fitness business, I said, if I'm going to do both, there's one thing I'm going to have to do. And I cannot be a disservice to my clients who are paying me in the fitness world. I have to still be an elite personal trainer. I still have to make sure I give them my time, energy, and effort. I still have to make sure that I show up every time that I show up. And I still have to do everything that I can, from keeping my certifications to keeping that mindset that an elite personal trainer would have, to make sure that this side hustle is not distracting away from the thing that is paying the bills right now. So that was my number one thing when I decided I was going to pursue my side hustle and eventually make that the business that I'm pursuing for the next 10 years or so. So when I made that decision, I knew my side hustle, the most important thing was not to bring in money right away. The most important thing was to get attention, to gain a following, and to develop my skill set.
Hmm.
So while I had my other business that was paying me pretty well, I was working on building a skill set that could build a $1 billion business. Now, I don't have a $1 billion business at the moment, but I believe that in 8 years and 7 months, I will have a $1 billion business. I believe that that will happen because of the foundation that I'm putting in place. So, with that said, for those 3 years, I tried a lot of different things. I tried a mentorship internship program. I did that for about 2 years, where I mentored high school and college students through about a 5 to 8 week program. And if they were in high school or college and they needed internship credit, I would sign off on their papers and I would give them internship credit. And what that gave me was experience teaching. It's hard when people aren't paying you because a lot of times they're not as engaged. But I tell you what, some of those people who went through that program, their lives changed. And because their lives changed, because they took what was taught and put it into action, it helped me build confidence as a coach. I had a 15-year-old talk to I think it was the CFO of Costco. It was something like that. And it was a lot of different stories because one of the assignments was, hey, I want you to interview someone that you look up to. Instead of worrying about applying for all these jobs, I said, you need to meet these people. You need to get your foot in the door because those people are going to tell you what you need to do next. And those people are going to be the ones who help create the dream opportunities for you based on what they say you need to do. Now, they're not going to just hand you a tee and say swing. They're going to hand you the tee and say, hey, it may take a little bit to figure out, but this is going to save you probably 10 years. This is going to help you make 10 times more money if if you utilize the information that I'm telling you.
Mhm.
So then I was like, okay, let's start turning this into something. So I had a personal development conference. I think I was the first one to start having a personal development conference in Connecticut post pandemic era. Meanwhile, the pandemic era was still going on, but I was like, screw this. Let's just make this happen. And that really started to get attention as the guy who was really bringing businesses together, bringing positive energy together. And then that had success. And my mentor said, "You're ready to start teaching a speaker school." And I thought he was crazy. I literally thought he was crazy. And for 2 months, I just totally pushed that to the side. Then I was hungover, laying in my bed on a Sunday morning, thinking all I needed to do was to do something that was positive, something that could bring value to people, something that could make me feel productive, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I think I got this figured out how to start this speaker school. And I called Carl, who was the best speaker I knew in the area. I said, Carl, do you want to teach this speaker school with me? And he said, Brandon, let's do it. Because Carl had the location. So I was like, okay, this is perfect collaboration right here. So that was in 10 days, the start of the speaker school. We sold it out in the first week. We wanted to get 10 people for the first one. We got 10 people. And then
I think I was a part of that one there.
And Rob was in that. And, thanks to people like Rob, like Andre, like Giovanni, who kept saying, hey, when's the next one? When's the next one? I decided hey, we were going to try another one. And we tried that virtually and in person. And then people kept asking about it. So now what I'm doing is I'm actually revolving a lot of my business around speaker schools. So I've now taught 10 speaker schools, eight public, and then 2 corporate. And just announced the North America Speaker School Tour, where we're going to go to Laguna Beach in July. We're going to go to Toronto in August, and then we're going to go to Chicago in September, and we're going to go to New York City for the elite one in October. And the number one core value of Warm Heart Life is create opportunities for yourself and others. And a lot of people say they want to be speakers, but few take the action necessary to be able to develop the skills to be an elite speaker. So we're going to give people an opportunity not only to speak, but to professionalize their image by creating more and more content for them, and giving them a platform where they can also get connected with other speakers, so that more opportunities can pop up to get on podcasts, to get on other people's stages, and to help spread the word.
Yeah.
So now people have an opportunity to go on tour. And yeah, it's paid. Like, you do have to pay. But you're getting content, and you're getting opportunities, and you're getting the network. And we're taking everybody to a comedy show for the first 3 days so they can see one of the best public speakers in the world.
Yeah, man, you're really lining that up, making it simple for anybody who's interested in just not only just public speaking, but being able to communicate more clearly, I feel like, because you guys go over a lot of different things in speaker school. I've been in a couple of different speaker schools now, and I know you guys are very unique, making sure that everyone gets a lot of reps, going over the structure, really kind of breaking things down to make it very simple to figure out what your message is and craft it so that you can deliver it to an audience, whether that audience is just one person or via social media or in front of a large stage in front of tons and tons of people. So I really love what you've been doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of things coming up in the future. I just wanted to ask you, because it sounds like you have been doing a lot of different things. Do you know, like off the top of your head, how many different types of things you've kind of been working on through your side hustle since personal training? Because you didn't right off the bat dream of teaching public speaking, right?
No, I mean, the funny thing is the personal training business, that to me, like, I felt like I had all the success that I wanted, and that success can be measured on a lot of different levels. Before I was known as a personal trainer, I was doing that as a side hustle. So in college, I used to I used to try and figure out any way to get better at my workouts. Like, because I was like, man, if I can get more physically fit, I'm going to be able to hit the ball farther. I'm going to be a better golfer. And what ended up happening is that curiosity attracted other people at school to ask me questions. So my freshman year of college, my buddy used to just work out with me, and I used to just tell him what my workouts were. And I didn't think much of it. And then I got my first certification my sophomore year. And then people started saying, hey, can you take me through an eval? Hey, what do you think of this? And I was like, well, let me take you through an eval. This is what I think of this. Let me design some exercises for you. And then my junior year, I started to notice that one day in the gym, literally 6 people were working out with me while I was working out. Literally 6 people were working out with me while I was just working out myself.
Now, did these guys all know each other, or are they just people
They
in different
started
groups?
to, because people kept asking me. I was like, listen, I'm going to work out at this time. If you want to work out with me, come work out with me. I'll show you what I'm doing. And it got to the point where I was like, hey, maybe I'm on to something here. And so I said, you know what, guys, I'm going to do a 6:30 a.m. workout and a 10 a.m. workout, and I'll just train you. I'll work out with one of you. I don't know which one, but I'll just train you. And so I broke it up into 2 time slots, and I started training them in group training. And then that summer, I did an internship at Mike Boyle's Strength and Conditioning, and I started to get taken very seriously. And the school actually hired me my senior year. That they had to do it some weird way just to make sure that it was legal, ethical, and okay, because there's a lot of rules and regulations with the colleges. So they figured out a way where I was an intern, and I basically was my boss. And I got to train the college students, and I actually got a stipend for it. So it was cool from doing something that I was curious about to actually, even though it wasn't a lot, I was getting paid. And then they started sending me clients who weren't students. I remember my first client would pay me $50 an hour while I was a senior in college. I felt like a baller. So that's how that side hustle turned into a career, because then I did a 7-month internship while I was pursuing being a golf pro full time. I would work 4 or 5 days at the golf course, and then I would spend 2 or 3 days at the gym, where the guy who just won a major championship this week, Brooks Koepka, he trained. So I was spending 2 or 3 days a week on my off days working at the gym as an intern, but I was getting to see the most elite athletes, some of the most elite athletes in the world. Some may say he's the best now. I mean, he wasn't back then, but I got to see some of the top golfers in the world at 22 years old. Now, I wasn't their trainer, but it was a small gym, and my boss was their trainer. So I was getting exposed to their programming, their conversations. This is what they would do in off weeks. And it was really a game changer. And then I went up to Greenwich, Connecticut, and people were paying up to $150 an hour to work with me at 22 years old. Now, again, I will say I was not getting all of that $150, but people were paying that to work with me one-on-one. And I went from a side hustle for about 3 to 4 years to now all of a sudden this was my full-time career. And it was a commission-based only job, but my second year I actually doubled what I made my first year. So it was pretty cool to take that side hustle, turn it into a career, and then almost nearly double it the second year. So the personal development was the same way. I was like, I need about 3 years to really figure out how to develop a skill set that can bring value to people. And that's what happened. I tried a lot of different things from, hey, my goal is to help 21 people get to 21K, and you don't pay anything till you get there. Obviously, I don't do that anymore, but I did that for about 2 years, where I invested in people, and many of them stuck with me, many of them didn't. It was just one of those things. The people who really want to make things happen, I figured would stick with me. The people who were kind of like, this is great, this is cool, maybe they wouldn't. And that's how it worked out. And that was the goal of that. I've had many workshops, I've had good vibes and good times nights where I buy the tacos and the tequilas, people bring snacks and stuff. And
Yeah, that was a
we
fun
get,
time.
the good vibes and good times night. You could argue that's one of the most profiting events for me. I probably spend about $500, but a lot of those people who went to that event bought a ticket to A to B Con, have come to the speaker schools. So, and some of the best content I've enjoyed having has come from that. So yeah, I've tried a lot of different things and I go to a lot of different events. I had before A to B Con 2, which was April 15th, 2023. Rob spoke there. I had a 1 month stretch. This was planned. I had a 1 month stretch from middle of January to middle of February where I went to 5 events and I paid about $26,000 for those. So,
Wow.
people are like, Brandon, how do you get so many people to your events, all that stuff? Well, it's kind of like social media. If you want engagement on your page, you're going to have to engage on other people's page. If you want people to come to your events, you're going to have to come to their events. So anyone who just wants success handed to them, all I got to say is good luck, because I love the theme of this podcast because the side hustle is a real thing for people who are building very good businesses. Grant Cardone said if he were to do this all over again, he would do whatever he had to do to be able to get enough money to put food on the table and live in a comfortable place. Then he would spend all the rest of his time, his side hustle, he would spend all the rest of his time on studying the right deals because he knows now if he could find the right deals, it's easy to get the money. So,
Yeah, studying and investing in yourself there. And I love that you had mentioned about all the different events and how much money you actually spent investing in yourself. Because a lot of people think that they are, but they really aren't anywhere near what it was. I heard a statistic actually just yesterday. It said about 17% of the population are considered entrepreneurs. And of that 17%, only 40% are spending money, actual money, investing in themselves to better themselves, going to events and different things like that. I saw they were talking about how you would think that people are spending thousands of dollars on all these different events and such, but the entrepreneurs are spending in the tens of dollars investing in themselves. Some entrepreneurs aren't even spending $100 a year on bettering themselves. So, this is trying to grow this into being a free resource for a lot of people, but getting to the events, getting around people, kind of like what you were doing with your internship. And early on in the personal training world, you were in the gym. You weren't necessarily working with these high-level athletes, but you're just around them. And exactly how our friend Andre always talking about his law of proximity, right? Just being around these other individuals are going to help elevate your game and everything there. So I thank you again for sharing that. One thing you did just mention was you said you needed 3 to 4 years really developing the skills to kind of get this personal development business going, to get it off its feet. What would you consider being the top skills that you needed to craft and maybe even still need to kind of work on refining yourself?
oh, that's a good question. So and by the way, the 3 years really clicked with me because I had a mentor in the music industry who was very successful in my mind, and she told me that she tells everybody to give something at least 3 years a shot. And I really related to that because of what I had been through in the golf business and then in the fitness business. So that was one reason why I kind of knew with Warm Heart Life I needed a solid 3 years. And then the question was, what skills did I need to develop, or what skills do I still need to work on?
Yeah. What were the main skills that you were thinking to yourself? I really need to really get good at these
Well,
three
I
things.
needed to figure out how to get all these concepts that were taught to me that I believed in, and I needed to figure out how to relate that to other people. So that's why I came up with the core values of Warm Heart Life, and I would repeat them every day for almost a year. Now, okay, there was some days where I didn't, but I bet you I was 28 out of 30 days a month for probably almost a year. And I had to engrave what I wanted my company to be and what I wanted people to think of when they thought of Warm Heart Life and Brandon Gaydorus. So that was one of the skill sets, was literally embodying the core values. And one thing that I'm working on is I'm always working on trying to live by those core values, because for me to say I'm perfect, that is an awful statement. I think I'm the farthest thing from perfect. I think there's things that I'm always working on. I teach public speaking. I'm probably the most critical of my speaking. And some people, there's a lot of people, and Rob has done enough speaker schools where he could pretty much teach one. And me and Rob have actually taught a personal development course together, which I really enjoyed. And the thing is, some of these hot shots, they come to me and they're like, I got this speaking thing down. I'm really good at speaking. And I'm just like, okay, good for you. And then if they show an open mind, I'll say, listen, let's go through a Zoom call, and I'll show you some things that maybe you're not seeing. And that silences people really quickly. It silences people really quickly when they actually show up to the speaker school. I I have people all the time that want to speak on my stages, but yet I never see them speaking. They won't go to a speaker school. And it's like, what do you want me to say? Like, I already know the mistakes you're going to make before you even start talking. I've literally worked with hundreds of people on their speaking skills. I already know the mistakes that you're going to make. So for you to not have any social proof, for you to not invest in someone who's going to help you become a 10 times better speaker, why would I go out of my way to try and give you an opportunity that I know other people would I don't know about die for, but really, really appreciate? So one thing that I had to work on is I had to work on becoming a better speaker. So not only did I take a speaker school 5 years ago, but I worked on those skills every single week. And then I've taught 10 speaker schools. So you could argue that I've gone through 10 more of my speaker schools because I try and live by example on the assignments that are in there. And then I took another speaker school after I started teaching them. And that helped me become an even more better teacher. So those were some of the things, like how could I get what was inside of my head and figure out a way to become a better leader and a better coach to get that in other people's heads. And then a lot of things like the 4 disciplines of execution, the thing that I base my business coaching on. I got sick of reading all these other books. There was people are recommending books all the time, and I just started thinking, okay, let me find the books that I really believe in and I really respect, and let me just dive deep into those books. So 4 disciplines of execution, when I really started to take business coaching seriously, I think I listened to that book 15 to 20 times. And you want to know the crazy thing, Rob? I put so much work into studying that book and then applying the principles with other people. A guy asked me the other day, he said, this is probably a couple months ago. He said, Brandon, I got the 25th anniversary of my company. This is probably about $100 million company. He said, Brandon, I got the 25th anniversary of my company, and I was wondering if you know who would be a good speaker. And I asked him the budget, and it was pretty good speaker budget. And I threw a couple of names out there. He's like, I don't know, they're a little bit rah-rah, a little bit motivational. I want someone who can actually help us hit our goal. And I told him about the 4 Disciplines of Execution book last year. Mm-hmm. And he literally, based on everything he had known and everything his business partners knew, he retailored the vision of the company based on that book. So I said, well, why don't you reach out to the author of that book and see if he would come speak? And he says, he says, you're right, let's do it. And we looked him up. We found his website, and that he did speaking engagements, and it fit the budget perfectly. He said yes, and he asked him. He said, how did you find out about me? And then he said, well, my trainer Brandon told me about your book a little while back. He said, oh, I got to meet this guy. So now I'm gonna get invited in a month or so to be able to meet one of the business coaches, one of the business mentors that I've had through his book. Now I'm going to get the opportunity to actually meet him. But you asked about the skill set. Well, I had to develop a skill set that could be able to deliver simple concepts to other people so that they would take action on them. Now, this guy does not do business coaching with me, but I was able to explain to him the concepts and principles in a book that piqued his interest, that made him read that book, and not only read that book, but redesign the entire 3-year goal of that company to be able to attack it and to be able to hit that. That has given them an engagement and enthusiasm and excitement that will really attack something very, very special. So those are a lot of the things I had to figure out. But the main thing was, how do I take what's inside my head that I believe in and help other people do that? And one of the things I'm constantly working on is trying to figure out how other people can keep the motivation and discipline that is necessary to be able to attack big goals. Because the thing that frustrates me the most in business coaching is when people say they're going to do something and then it's not done. So I don't know if I'm being like, rule is you always have to take responsibility. So I have to take responsibility. Okay, I'm sorry I did not make that a big enough point. This is in my head, obviously. I don't even always say this like this, but I have to figure out, like, why is this not being done? And so that's one thing I'm constantly trying to figure out. And one thing that I did was last year I changed my price structure. I was like, you know what? I can't work with people for free because I don't feel like they're taking this as seriously as it needs to be.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I changed. And Don Saladino, he really helped me out with that. He said people will value your time more once they realize how valuable you are. I don't know. Maybe we edit that out. But he talked about, I don't know what the exact quote was, but he talked about how people will respect you a lot more when you put a value on your time. And that is a concept that I obviously knew, but it was the right time for me to hear that. And that helped me change a lot of things.
Yeah, it's just like there's a similar quote. It's something along the lines of people who pay attention. So when I see it way too many times, people asking for free workouts and coaching for nutrition and things like that. If they don't have any kind of skin in the game, they're not going to stick with it. They just goes in through one ear and goes out the other, and there's no motivation behind it. So I totally agree that you do need to put a little bit of skin in the game to kind of keep you true to your commitments that you're trying to make. And that's an incredible story about your client there and how this changing the business around, and you get to meet the author and everything. That's got to feel awesome. You got to be amped for that, right?
Yeah, and the CEO of Starbucks is supposed to be there as well, so I'm pumped.
Oh, that's gonna be
good. You've seen Warm Heart Life from the very beginning, and for me, Warm Heart Life has been all about growing together with as many people as possible. So if you're watching this podcast, you're probably trying to figure out how to make some things happen with your side hustle, with your business. And Rob has seen this side hustle from the very beginning. And one thing that has pushed me to keep going is knowing that growing is a lot more fun when you're doing it with a massive group of people. And that has been a big motivation for me. And then one thing that I wanted to make sure to tell everyone financially is that if you have a side hustle, do not have an end goal of getting it to 5K, 10K a month, because you're going to get burnt out because your revenues are not high enough. If you're starting a side hustle, it's okay to have a target to get to 1K, to 5K, to 10K, to 15K. But you need to make sure that if you're starting that side hustle, unless you just want it to be a hobby, if you want it to be a real business, you have to figure out how you can get to at least 21K a month with just you. If there's 2 people, then times that by 2. And I'm talking about the minimum. 21K a month, because if you don't, it's not even worth trying in my mind. You're better off getting a good job that gives you benefit in a big company that could pay you $150,000 a year. You get your weekends off. Maybe you have to travel once a month, whatever it is. you're better off just doing that. Because if you don't get your revenues to at least 21K a month, then you will not bring enough revenue in to scale the business. You won't. So don't even try it. Like I have people who come to me, they're like, oh, I just want to get to 5K a month. Okay, you can do that. But if you want to work with me, that is not going to be the end goal. Because if it is, it's not worth your time and it's not worth my time.
Oh man, yeah, all about that. Needing to have a bigger vision and dreaming big, and that is perfect because I want to ask you. I know personally your goals for Warm Heart Life, but has some of those changed? And where is your major goal right now, like your end game goal for Warm Heart Life?
Yeah, so my goal is to have 10,000 student universities across 10 of the best cities in the United States. So a 10,000 student university, and then 10 of those around the United States. And the goal is to have that in 8 years and 7 months. And the whole idea with that is that the students mostly go to school part time. So they're only going to school for about 5 hours a week. And then they actually are spending most of their time working inside of a business, about
Mm.
25, 30 hours a week. And in the school sessions, they're around that atmosphere of people, and we give them the most bang for the buck that they need during that time so they can understand how to do better at the job that they have. They can understand how to stick out at a job. They can understand how to grow in a job, and they can understand the social skills that are necessary not only in the professional world, but in the personal world. Like, how do you create more engaging conversations? How do you go up to someone and say hi? All of those different things. And the goal is that the students actually go to school and they're able to pay for school while they're going to school.
Mm.
So we can eliminate the debt crisis that is happening with the education system. So do I have that perfectly mapped out? No, but that's where the vision's at now. And we can look back at this 8 years and 7 months from now and be like, okay, wow, you talked about that back then, and now look at this. Like my buddy, I saw this weekend, who's a coaching client of mine. We went to St. Louis. We're in St. Louis. It's a fun weekend. There's concerts, there's partying, there's networking, there's fitness activities. And I was laying in the hotel one day, and I was just laying on the ground, and I was just visualizing A to B Con 2. I was visualizing how this could happen because A to B Con 1 had just happened. And he goes, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I'm just visualizing A to B Con 2 happening because I had saw that day, that weekend, I had saw Pitbull. I had saw Pitbull play in front of thousands of people and tie personal development and entertainment. So I was trying to visualize how to actually make it happen. And he just knuckles me while we were at dinner. He's like, dude, I remember you saying that. And the fact that you did that is so cool. He's like, congrats. I'm like, thanks, man. I forgot about that moment, but I remember it now.
Yeah, that's amazing being able to look back and reflecting on things. Is that what we're going to be doing down the road, or is your speaker school mastermind locations? Is that any potential for your 10,000 student schools in the future? Are you scouting out these locations ahead of time?
Yeah, I'm deaf. That is a big reason behind that. 100%.
Awesome. I can't wait to reflect back. But I do want to be courteous of your time. I know you are only have a few minutes left. Um, got any additional information on those masterminds or where we can find how to sign up for that and where to stay connected or reach out to you for business coaching and things like that?
Yeah, so if you go to the link in my Instagram bio or the Warm Heart Life, so Brandon Gaydorus or Warm Heart Life, there's a link to the speaker school series, all the information you need, dates, cities, all of that. And then there's also a call link in there to book a 20-minute call with me. Listen, you're not going to sign up for this speaker school by just looking at the link. You're probably going to want to hear more information. So there's a call link in there where you can book a 20-minute call with me, and I'll get you any information that you need.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man. I love some of the book talk that you spit out there. A lot of great feedback and good stories you have. I appreciate so much for coming on, man. Definitely going to need to do this again in the future. Any last words for the audience?
Yeah, listen to Rob. Rob is one of the most determined, motivated, disciplined people that I've ever met. I'm talking to him last night, and he's like, "Dude, I'm 70,000 steps behind uh, in my step race, and I'm logging these steps. I don't know if I'll win, but I'm gonna give it what I got." So those are the people that you definitely want to continue to listen to, because sometimes they don't even have to say anything for you to be inspired to take more action. So keep it up, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
Of course, I appreciate you, man, and everything that you do. Looking forward to reflecting back in the future and all the great stuff, great success we both have. Thanks again, dude. I'll talk to you soon.